was an original pupil under Drake. He did that procedure in 1827, published it in 1830 in the Western Journal of Medicine. So tonight we've named the Lifetime Achievement Award of actor Dr. Richmond in his honor. This society has been around since 1876. And Arthur King wrote a great book about it for the first 100 years of it. And I'm glad to see so many people here tonight honoring the society, honoring what we stand for here as OBGYNs. There's camaraderie here, there's friendship, there's colleagues, and it's great to see everyone out here tonight. I worked with Bruce as a medical student, and Bruce was an inspiration to me. I never thought about doing OBGYN, so I rotated with Bruce Allen. And working in Bruce's Hyde Park office, seeing how his patients loved him, seeing how calm he was. See, I was just talking tonight, his mother just passed in 99. See how his mom did his billing. I don't know, he was doing pretty well at the time. He had a great family, he was a great guy. He really inspired me that this is something you could do, something, Frank as a man that you could do, and people could, respect you for it, and they would love you as a physician, and, it's something you want to emulate. And so when I thought about this award, and I thought about the Lifetime Achievement, I thought of Bruce, instantly. So anyway, I'm going to give him the floor tonight. He wants to say a few words. His friends and colleagues are here, so I'm sure it'll be great. So let's honor Bruce.
We have the same plan, so I'm just going to stand over there, though.
Good. I'm just recovering from a cold, so that's why I asked for the mic, because my voice is probably will give out. First, I want to thank Rocco. That was an introduction the way my mother would believe, but it was greatly appreciated. I'm probably going to improvise during my speech. He reminded me, since I'm embarrassing a lot of people tonight, Rocco was not only a great medical student, he was a fantastic pizza delivery boy. And as he reminded me, one night he delivered pizza to somebody, the next day she shows up as a patient. And she comes into my office, takes one look at Rocco and says, "What the hell, you got pizza boys doing interviews for me?" So I had explained to her that he was more than just a pizza boy. So I'm glad that he turned out the way he did most of the time.
Lambert Richmond was a janitor before Drake took him in as a medical student. That's also true.
Anyway, so I have a written speech, and it's Rocco's fault. I said, "Can I speak?" And he said, "The floor is yours." So I'll probably improvise a little bit on some of this. 1 year ago, I was on a trip to Ireland, which is not surprising when your wife's name is Colleen, but you end up in Ireland. In fact, her family name is McCool, so coming with Colleen McCool, where else are you going to go visit? With that kind of name, I'm really looking around for the leprechaun all the time, they just show up. While I was there, I kissed the Blarney Stone. I don't know how many people are familiar with the Blarney Stone. One of the interesting things, it's in an old castle, and you have to climb all these steep steps, and it's kind of treacherous, so I told Colleen I wasn't going to do it. But she went up, because she does everything, and I thought to myself, this is pretty stupid, I can do this. So I did, I climbed the Blarney Stone. And I'm at the top of the Blarney Stone, and I'm out of breath. And you have to, it's hard to describe really, but you have to get on your back, crawl underneath something, which they're holding you by your feet, but just the stone, it's underneath the walls. And I'm thinking, do I really want to do this? So I have all this stuff in my pocket, so there's two really nice students in front of me, so we start talking, and they say, "Hey, we'll take pictures of you for you." I said, "Great," and I hand him my phone, and we're talking, and the one guy looks at me and says, and they're from Harvard. So the one guy looks at me and says, "I bet you miss your skyline." And I'm going, okay, you have to explain that to me. Skyline, he says, "Don't you people love your skyline? That's all we hear is skyline." He goes, "I've tasted it, it's really kind of yucky." And I said, "Okay, what is this? How do you know about skyline?" And then I'll show you how I knew. I should have it here. For those who can see, I handed him my phone. I'm an Ardent Bearcat fan, so this is what he said. And he goes, you know, my roommate is from Cincinnati, and we're goddamn tired of his family shipping him to Skyline and enforcing on us. And I said, well, I happen to like Skyline, but anyway, it shows you what a small world it can really be. Anyway, for those that, for those that know, hello?
See if you can figure it
Hello?
out. The bottom?
We can hear you. Just talk.
Anyway, for those that know, kissing the Blarney Stone gives you the gift of gab. It's clearly not what I needed. As I said, that is like giving an attic a permanent fix. So if this talk gets too long, you can blame Rocco for telling me I had permission. You can also blame the Irish and the Blarney Stone. All right. When I was a medical student, helping Hippocrates write the oath, he said I'd be practicing longer than he would, so I guess he's right because I'm still practicing and he isn't. Tonight, this has come up too. When people ask me when I'm going to retire, I usually say when they close the lid. Colleen usually adds to that when she hears it, and they better nail it shut, so he'll find a way to keep it. I can truly say I love practicing all these years, and I feel blessed that I could do it in the city I love. Interestingly enough, how did I choose Cincinnati? Other than the fact I'm from Cincinnati, obviously. Because I went to medical school in the University of Louisville. And while there I was dating a very nice woman and we broke up. And I was pretty devastated. She dumped me, I know that's hard to believe. Later on, we reconnected. So I was looking for interesting places for a senior, to practice, or, to do residency. I'm looking at Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Alabama, New York, Boston, some really nice places. And that's the places I was visiting, and I did with Cincinnati. Thank you. Just as an aside. Well, lo and behold, the woman that dumped me realized the error of her ways, and we got back together. Now, she was a nurse. And she said, let me see your residency list. I said, sure. So she looked at it. No, goddamn no. Under no circumstances are we going there. She was from a small town in Kentucky. She said, we're going to Cincinnati. That's how I ended up in Cincinnati. It was a great choice. Hillary Clinton said it takes a village to raise a child. To do what I've done, it takes a very, very big support staff. So I'm going to do some real thank yous now. First of all, and probably most important, I want to thank my parents of blessed memory. As a first-generation American, they sacrificed a great deal to make sure I had the best education possible. My parents were Depression-age people. His father died when he graduated from high school. He had to go immediately to work to support his family. My mother, similar things. So these were people that were not college educated, but they knew the value of education, and they made sure that was instilled in me. They instilled in me the love of learning and the importance of hard work. I always say with my parents, if you were sick, you were either in the hospital or at school. There was no in between. And people that work with me know I've unfortunately, we have here said that sometimes I come in when probably I shouldn't because I feel like today I work because
You come in with drains in your abdomen.
He is right. Probably the only person
Specific example.
Thank you. I'm probably the only person. First I was at Liberty Hospital in Moonlight, and I got very ill. But so what? I think I've been sick before. And not to get gross, I started with projectile vomiting. All kinds of stuff. I can tough this through. I'm fine. So finally, it got a little bit too much, and I said maybe I better call the nurse to give me some fluids or so. So called the nurse. She walked in. quote was, "Holy shit." She turned around and yelled, "Stretcher now." They whipped me down to the emergency room. I thought, well, I can still maybe take call.
We can still get paid.
They made the diagnosis of acute gallbladder. Shipped me down to base. The surgeon came in, looked at me, and I said, "Take this goddamn thing out." And he goes, "No, you're too sick. You're in septic shock. I mean, we can't operate." And I said, "Well, what about tomorrow?" He said, "I don't think you understand. We have to drain this for 6 weeks." And I said, "What? Okay. I mean, what choice did you have?" So they drained it for 6 weeks. Well, I mean, that didn't stop me from going back to work. So I figured out a way to hide the drain and still see patients draining my gallbladder. They wouldn't let me operate, but I did sneak in at the VA and operate at the VA. Christ wouldn't sign out on it. So because they pulled the drain. Right before I left with the drain in, the chaplain came in to see me, who I'd known for a long, long time. So he looked at me and he goes, "Wow, you look a lot better." And when I came in when you were kind of out of it, and I thought I was going to have to give you last rites, I didn't think you mind. And I said, "No, I'll take anything. It's like they say, when you're this much trouble, I'll take anybody's help." He goes, "But you look better now." And he said, "Well, I have a question for you." I said, "Sure." He said, "You're eating." And I said, "Sure." He goes, "Well, isn't today Yom Kippur for all that you know? That's a fast day." And I went, "Father, God has had his fast. Screw him, I'm eating." And he goes, "Well, Bruce, that is actually the first time in my entire career someone has ever told me, screw God." So anyway, but thank you for reminding me of that. Anyway, the other thing my parents taught me, which is one of the most important part of my Jewish background, is a phrase called tikkun olam. This really refers to the idea that people should work to improve the world through acts of kindness, compassion, and social justice. And that's what my parents told me I needed to do. And that has been my goal, to live up to that. As has been referenced, many of you know that my mother worked in my office for 25 years. It's almost a Jewish joke, mother working, with her son. However, she was really the best employee I ever had, as you can imagine. Always on time, never stealing, low paid. She did get a check, by the way, but she would have worked for free. And she was actually, she was amazing because, here's an elderly woman. I think she started when she was in her 50s. And she learned the computer, she learned how to do all the billing and everything. And all my patients ultimately knew she was my mother. She rarely missed a day. She loved the patients and always talked to them, remembered them. She's actually nicer to them than I was usually. Many of my old patients ask about her to this day. And to tell you how beloved she was, at Christmas, she and my miniature dachshund, who also worked in my office, got more presents than I did at Christmas. It was kind of embarrassing. They'd bring my mother, they called Shirley, presents and a dog bones, and I would get nothing. So I think that shows you the value in my office of who's who. The dog, by the way, was a victim of Christ Hospital, unfortunately. That was the one thing I tried to negotiate it in my contract, and I said she'd even work for free, but they wouldn't do that. Anyway, I've also been blessed to have two extraordinary wives. The first was Alice Alice of blessed memory. Do all of you remember your first deliveries? The first delivery you ever did? Okay. All right, here's my first delivery, which I will never forget. And I went into OB-GYN in spite of it. Alice was an emergency room nurse. She was head of the emergency room. Was triaging. I was there flirting. causing mischief. A cab driver comes running in and yells, "Somebody's in labor in my cab, we need help." Okay, so Alice grabs me and we go out to the cab. So I do what you normally do, I open the door. She proceeds to shove me into the back of the car, simultaneously to the baby coming out. So I end up delivering, as a third-year medical student, a baby in the car, covered with blood, with a hysterical nurse behind me laughing her head off. And in spite of that, I still went into OB-GYN. It sort of was encouraging it. Alice also enjoyed residency with me. I know there's Walt's here and Bob Weinhorn, so they remember Alice. We had our first child at the end of internship. Fortunately for us, which is different than today, we were actually allowed the day off for the delivery and the day to pick up your newborn. And wife from the hospital, as opposed to all the paternity leave and stuff we got. I mean, we were expected, you know, we were lucky to get that off. As a resident, we were told there was only one problem with the call every other night. You missed half the cases. So you can imagine what residency was like for our wives. Alice helped me set up my practice, and she actually encouraged me to go into solo practice. She knew that would involve a lot of uncertainty and some financial difficulties and many weird hours, but she wanted me to practice the kind of medicine I wanted to. So we did struggle early financially, but she absolutely never complained. And most importantly, she bore me 4 magnificent sons, 2 of whom are here. One is an attorney, one is a CEO, one is a urologist, which is almost a doctor. and one is an educator, is in charge of charter schools. And he himself had dyslexia, top Brad. Went to Springer, then Springer's a school for children with learning disabilities. Went on back to Country Day, went to DePaul University, went into teaching, and came back and was the first person in the history of Springer to ever graduate from Springer and come back to work at Springer. So he was like the poster child for them. You know, someone that showed he could do the talk because he did the walk. Alice helped set the foundations and values and kept things together with my really chaotic schedule. She was the kindest and most compassionate person I've ever known, and probably ever will know. I was always in awe of her simple humility. In Hebrew, she was Azadik. Azadik is a righteous person, what we all aspire to be, but she actually was. When she passed away way too young and suddenly, it left a massive hole in my heart, which I thought I could never fill. Now I'm getting back to Daniel. So, Daniel was, at this point in time, it was just Daniel and I think Noah had already gone to school. So I got talked into being a chaperone on a school trip. And I said, oh sure, what the heck. So we went on a school trip, and during the trip, we went before a very famous fountain. And there is a legend, if you throw a coin into the fountain, you're going to return and you'll come back with your true love. So Daniel badgered me, throw the coin in, what do you got to lose? So I did. And the legend was true, because several years later, I came back to the fountain with Colleen. And the fountain, as most of you probably recognize, is Tivoli in the heart of Rome. That's where we honeymooned. So Daniel was sort of the unknown matchmaker here. Jonas, my second son, said I was lucky to find true love twice in my life, and he's absolutely correct. My oldest son lived in Atlanta, so we were dating. He was the only one who had met Colleen, and I thought, well, this is getting pretty serious. It's probably time for Daniel to meet, for Nathan to meet Colleen. It's my turn. So we went down there to visit, and we went out to a restaurant. And the restaurant was one of those, it was very nice. It was driving distance, walking. So they drove, we walked. After the dinner, as we're coming back, they drove back. And Lisa, my daughter-in-law, told me later, Nathan was out on the porch looking. He came back and said, Jesus, they're holding hands. She's so nice. I really think this is the real thing. So he was the last one to meet her. Now, Colleen told me not to talk about her, but as she will tell you, I don't always do what she wants. So she's gonna have to bear with it. She has supported me in being more healthy, exercising and eating right because I need to live a long life and be well to enjoy my awesome, I have 13 grandchildren. As most of you can tell, I've lost a lot of weight. That's Colleen. That's not me. She has even brought me home cooked meals when I've been stuck at the hospital on holidays, so she goes out of her way. She's always badgering me, but in a good way, to eat well. I don't object. Someone has to control the impulses. I'm not sure she realized how chaotic her life would become. As a non-medical person, she keeps me grounded and opens me up to different worlds. She has extremely high intelligence, but it's always unfortunate when your wife is smarter than you are, although I'll deny saying this, that I ever said that. And she always continues to challenge me in many, many thoughtful ways. Together we have traveled all over the world in the U.S., and her presence makes the trips very enjoyable and much more meaningful. Now, I may need a ride home with this next statement, but I'm going to say it anyway. We were attending a wedding. It was actually Dave Pereira, Joe Caligaris, and I, and Colleen, one of the nurses on labor and delivery. You may want to watch out. Labor and delivery. And we had a great time. The next day I was on labor and delivery. Many of the nurses came up to me and said, Dr. Allen, we have a question for you. Sure. How did you ever manage to marry such a smoking hot wife? And I said, it's really easy to do that. I think she's legally blind. Another added benefit to our marriage was her father, of blessed memory, who became like a father and grandfather to my families. You know, my parents had already, well, my mother was still alive, my father passed away. I spent many happy hours with Red, and he virtually rebuilt my house into the house with his labor of love, among many who watched football games. This was typical Red. Red was I would come home and say, Jesus, what's Red's car doing here? And I'd go in the back and he'd be with a sledgehammer, and I'd go, what are you doing? He said, your back staircase is a little shabby, I'm gonna build you a new one. And that was Red. And of course, I want to thank my four sons who grew up with a father who, I hate to admit this, but you would all appreciate, would fall asleep at dinner, they'd wake up with a sign, had to go in, for example, get Daniel up, see you sometime later, just get to school. I don't care what you do, I just don't want to hear from the police. So they did a great job of partially raising themselves. And as you can tell, each one is successful with their own great families. Now, I do have to tell a story that involves my son Noah. Noah was a very, very good athlete. It's most of you know, Peggy knows. Our sons played together in Midland baseball. And Noah was a player of the year at basketball, the city of Cincinnati, so an excellent player. So on senior night, they introduced the parents, and Noah was the last one. So I'm standing there with Noah, Daniel, and myself. And after they announced everybody, the country day coach says, I have a special award. Would Dr. Allen please step forward? Okay. He goes, we want to award this award to Dr. Allen. In 11 straight years of country day basketball with all my sons, he has never missed a home game. He goes, he has made more games than the head coach. And the amazing thing for those that don't know it, He goes, this guy's in solo practice in OB-GYN. How the heck did he do that? And I said, look, but as you all know, the real answer, epidural. She's 3 centimeters brilliant. She's complete. No, I really think she's AC. I think she needs rupture. No, I can wait. I think she needs to labor down. Well, should we start pushing her? I'll call you back. So that's how one is able to do that. And I would be amiss if I didn't mention my brother of another mother, Joe Caligari. You inherit relatives, but you pick your friends. I could not have made a better choice. There is no way I could have survived without him. He is loyal to a fault, and in his own right, a great physician. I am proud to say he is my best friend. It is some of you have heard this story, and I debated it, and I thought, oh, what the hell. So as y'all, many of you know, I'm an ardent UC fan. He knows what's coming. I'm an ardent UC fan, and I go to all the basketball games and football games. A lot of them are on school nights, and I have 6 tickets. My kids can't always go, so Joey's my go-to. And we've been many games together. So a couple of years ago, I had missed 2 or 3 games for whatever reason, which is really unusual. And my son was there, and at the start of the game, he got a tap on his shoulder. And he said, yes. He goes, is there a problem? And he goes, well, what's the problem? He goes, where's that cute little gay couple? He goes, is something wrong? He goes, well, I'm his son, and I'm pretty sure he's straight. I think Dr. Calgaris is straight. I'm not sure. But no, they just couldn't tell. Sorry, Joe. Okay. I want to give thanks to also all my mentors who taught me how to be a good OB-GYN. Although too many to name, I'm grateful for everything that they did. I am going to talk about one in particular, the older people will know, Dr. Thomas Brunsman. He was a Christ Hospital physician, taught me a lot. When I went into private practice, he actually taught me how to run a private practice, really. Before Joe, before he retired, we shared call together. He was a great friend and a great mentor. And I just appreciate everything he did. We got to be social friends, and it was a nice relationship. But, and this is directed to the older crowd, in surgery, he could be a little difficult. Dr. Brunsman would put back layers that God didn't know existed. 45-minute episiotomy for nothing. And the dreaded call was Dr. Brunsman has a C-section. That was 2.5 hours. Routine. Bloodless, but 2.5 hours. So one night, Chief President, I got the dreaded call, Dr. Brunsman needs you. So the first reaction is some cussing. Your second reaction is to go to the bathroom because you know you're not going to get a chance for a while. So you go down there, hi Dr. Brunsman, you need help? Yes, great. So I made the skin incision, which was fine, cut into the sub-Q, then I went snap, 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 and I'm snapping everything. After about a minute and probably 20 snaps, we're just in the sub-Q. He hits me on the wrist. I say, yes, sir. Bruce, I know my reputation, but we don't need every capillary. So I greatly appreciate them. I have a sort of a Dr. Nelson story, since he's here. This is an embarrassing year. So he calls me to the office. Y'all know I do med students and stuff. So he calls me to the office. Says, Bruce, we need a serious talk. And I go, okay, what'd I do? He said, this is really bad, Bruce. And I said, what did I do? He goes, well, there's been a formal complaint against you. And I said, what? there's been a nidus report, and this is really bad. I don't think I've seen anything this bad. And I said, do I need an attorney? He goes, no, probably not. And I go, what did you do? Well, you're doing a cesarean section, yeah? And you had a medical student, yeah? And you asked the medical student where she went to undergraduate. And she said, I'm sorry, Jim, Notre Dame. And you apparently then said, wow, you couldn't get into a decent school. So he goes, I don't think you need an attorney. I think I can probably handle this. Anyway, but he really set me up pretty good. I mean, he had me really going. I also want to mention Walt, who said, Walt and I were residents together. We trained together, and when he was brighter than I was, and he's doing what I probably would love to do. I was kidding him tonight when he said, when are you going to retire? I said, as soon as I can get your job. I will admit, though, that, and it's hard to say, Walt was a better surgeon. And I learned a lot from Walt. When I get lucky and have Walt to help me with a C-section, to me it's a thing of beauty, because it's 20 minutes, I mean, it's boom, boom, boom. So, we're really happy to have him. Another resident that I went with is Bob Bonhorn, who actually was a year ahead of me, who helped teach me a lot, put up with my annex as a resident. So he knows a lot of the stories. And I'm also going to mention one of the, more for the older people, to show you how I was not necessarily I open my mouth sometimes a little too much. But I got called with Dr. Shellhouse. It was the very, very formal GYN person. Very, very German. I mean, born in Germany, post-war, very, very German. He was not comfortable doing vaginal work, but he occasionally had to do it. So you knew if you got called in to help Dr. Shellhouse, you weren't going to do anything. So he called me for a vaginal hysterectomy. I'm a chief. There again, kind of annoyed. Better things to do than to assist on a routine vaginal hysterectomy. So we're doing the case, and to be perfectly honest, I was paying no attention. I was flirting with the nurses. I was humming along. I mean, I was in another world. He again hits my retractor. I go, yes, sir. He goes, I can't do a German accent. Bruce, pay attention. You are the most important part of this case. I was dead quiet. Everybody's looking at me because he's kind of pissed. And I say, okay, Dr. Jost, but I need to ask you a question. What is the question? If this is the most important part of the case, how come you're not doing it? There's this moment of silence. He puts on this little smile and says, well, perhaps not the most important part. I said, pay attention. I said, yes, sir, as long as we've established I'm not the most important part, we'll try to pay attention. All right. I also want to thank my partners for putting up with me in all my old ways. My impetus for joining Christ was actually when my daughter-in-law finished a residency and wanted to practice with me. And at that time in my life, it really wasn't practical to bring in somebody else. So I said, Christ had been after me. I said, well, let's join. You're better off in the long term if we join Christ and I do it. I told Joe, who was cross-covered, he goes, yeah, maybe it's time. I think I'll join too. Well, that was 3. And then we said, well, Val's best friend is Sam. And she's almost as good as Val. Val's my daughter-in-law. And why don't we get Sam? And the 4 of us will form a group. So that was actually the nucleus of our group. So I want to thank them for putting up with me and sometimes my old ways and stuff.
Bruce, we're in the last decade, right?
He did.
I think
We're in
so.
the last decade?
I will say that group practice has extended my shelf life. A whole lot less calls. And finally, I want to thank all of you. Many of you have had the privilege of teaching and watching you grow up and develop. As Rocco said, some were even medical students in my office. Dr. Thomas was not here. Dr. Thomas's wife, Meg, was a medical student in my office who taught me how to needlepoint. as a med student. So people have been in my office that I have walls of needlepoint and cross stitch that she's the one who taught me how to do that. We really do have a great community here, and it's really been an honor to practice alongside of all of you. So, whatever deity or life force you may pray to, may He grant all of you peace, wisdom, compassion, and the ability to perform Tikkun Olam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't blame the chef, your steak's a little overdone. Try it.
Phone ran out of storage.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'll send it.
I'll ask him a minute.
Yeah.
You know, AirDrop?
Yeah.
That's the only way to send this. Let me.